You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
And this is Zoom the TBT of Charge and Hayner, and we are doing our 8th of 8 regional previews. We are going deep in the heart of Wheeling, West Virginia. Charge, we have some illustrious guests today. Would you like to introduce them, please?
Yeah, no, we have some great guests for our finale of the regional preview. So obviously, Elmore needs no introduction, has done it all with Heard That over the years. So welcome back to the show, Ott.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
And also very storied TBT, let's call it personality, Matt Shelton-Eide. He's run VCU Ram Nation. He's gone head-to-head with Overseas Elite too many times that we can count. What was your team last year? I'm skipped to my Lou last year, so really good history with TBT. Fantastic franchise. So welcome to the show, Matt. Bleed Virginia, too. Yeah, Bleed Virginia the year before that. So well, we're coming. Yeah, we're coming all back home to Ram Nation this year, though, so I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I can't, against all my wife's wishes, I keep coming back.
The wives and girlfriends hate this event. They just all do. They're like, why are you doing this? Does your partner or your loved one hate that you do this too?
No, she's a fan.
Probably just it keeps you off the street and out of trouble, probably. Now, Matt, can you comment on that shirt? 'Cause that's like one of the most stylish ensembles. You look like you're basically a pleasure boat captain somewhere in Florida, like some boat you rent by the hour and has like dancings on it or something. Like, have you ever piloted a boat?
Have I paddled? Have I powered a boat?
Piloted a boat.
Piloted a boat, no. But I am.
Okay.
I'm a lover of the beach and just a chill lifestyle. So this is just how I get down.
You look every minute of that. All right. So before we get into the show in large, this is one of the many years we're going back to West Virginia. What does it mean for TBT to continuously have this event in West Virginia?
It's just good for our state. We have two pretty good TBT programs in the state, and West Virginia and us. And, every year both programs and both are winning games. So there's a lot of fan support here, and it's just a great place to hold a regional. It's sort of centrally located, especially, Charleston, Pittsburgh, or Charleston, Wheeling, big cities like Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Ohio, it's pretty centrally located. So it's just a good place to have it.
Definitely. But now, also, you look like you're in an office that has big, thick law books behind it. My understanding is you're taking the bar test next week, correct?
Yeah, I take it the 25th and 26th.
Okay, how's the studying going?
It's getting there. I can't do much more. I've consumed about all I can consume.
On a scale of 1 to 10 Joe Johnsons, how difficult is the studying going?
10.
10 Joe Johnsons, got it. Now, Matt, talking about West Virginia hosting it. Now, you've had the pleasure of being a host. I was actually there when you hosted 2018 in Richmond. First of all, what goes into hosting an event like this?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing really is just like how well the city embraces it and the arena. And obviously some of these alumni or some of these schools do, some of them don't. Some of these cities want to bring the TBT, some of them put no effort. So I think that's just the main thing is just who's willing to work with TBT and who really wants to bring it here. And I think that's why some of these West Virginia cities are getting it and maybe why they're not, knocking on VCU's door.
Is there any chance of this getting back to Richmond at some point? I remember thinking that was a wonderful city.
Man, I hope so. I just had to book like 8 hotel rooms yesterday. And so I would love for it to be back at Siegel Center. It really is an advantage for your fundraising. That's for sure.
Definitely. Okay, let's get into this real quick. So let's bring up the deck. We've got a wonderful bracket. Now, Charge, looking at this bracket, by the way, we've talked about the deeper brackets. There's 3 that come to mind. Syracuse is very deep. Obviously, at the top, you have 2 of the last 2 champions. Louisville 1 to 8, very strong. Charge, so this bracket is right up there with the rest of them, correct?
Yeah, obviously West Virginia is just loaded. And I'll talk across the whole bracket. Usually we do left side, right side, but when you have both the, historical West Virginia teams there with West Virginia and Heard That on the same side of the bracket on the left-hand side, that's got a lot of appeal to it. The Pitt team, that Zoo Crew, the winner Heard That Zoo Crew is going to be in a great matchup against West Virginia, assuming they beat Du Bois. But anytime you can have a bracket that has, challenge ALS Florida now, so new name and Sideline Cancer, who have gone really, really deep in this tournament, numerous times on the same side, and then Ram Nation rolls in with a solid team. And like I said, the VCU Ram Nation, Matt probably knows exactly what their record has been in the past as a standalone for that team. But I mean, they've been outstanding, so it's just loaded.
8-4. That's the record as per the TBT website. Ram Nation is incredibly overqualified for their seed. Again, if you're listening, not watching. 1, West Virginia plays 8, Du Bois Dream. 4, Heard That, the Marshall alum. 5, Zoo Crew, the Pitt alums. 3, Challenge ALS Florida, the combination of 2-story programs. 6, Dogtown, your Georgetown alums. And you're finishing off the right side of the bracket. You got 2, Sideline, and 7, Ram Nation, which is the VCU alums. Let's get right into this. This is a star-studded matchup. Start with 1 seed, West Virginia, your host. Now, are they the official host, or are you guys a co-host? They're the only official host, correct?
Yeah, they're the official host.
Is that kind of just a slap in the face?
No, because Wheelin's a bit away from Marshall and our fan base, and plus that means we didn't have to do as much, publicity for it this year. So we had a lot less responsibility, and that was pretty nice.
That makes sense. Less work is always a favorite of everybody else. And it's the Du Bois Dream from Pennsylvania as your 8th seed. I guess, so West Virginia, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this team is a little older. They're always quiet. They come to play. They're a big rival of you guys. And one of the great pleasures of TBT is letting the cross-conference smaller and larger schools play each other. So obviously Marshall doesn't play West Virginia particularly often in basketball, correct?
No, it used to be every year, but in the last 5 or 6 years, they went away from it, and they haven't been playing. So this is a good chance for some of the fans to see that rivalry game that they used to be able to see.
And obviously, this is a powerful team, a well-rounded team, a little older. And Kevin Jones is still putting up 16 in Japan. Obviously, some younger blood. But this team will still go as far as Kevin Jones will take him, correct?
Yeah, I think he's sort of their motor and size. His size, his shooting, his rebounding. He's just a terrific player, and he's the heart and soul of that team. So as he goes, they go.
Now, Matt, also talking to you a bit about this. Now, you have been a host team. Does being a host team just add a little bit of pressure to the feeling you really have to succeed in this tournament?
Not at all. I mean, your guys are home. They're comfortable. Their fans are there. I think it's a huge advantage, personally.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah, and this roster has had a lot of turnover this year. So, we produce these, when I say we, Hainer and the intern, a couple weeks in advance. And, so Jamel Morris is not playing for these guys. Jason Page is not playing. Jordan Allen is not playing. So they've got some big holes to fill. And we talked about this offline, but they do have a good kind of young core of guys coming back. They just signed Stevenson recently, Sean McNeil, Johnson. So they got some young guys, but they haven't played, in this TBT before. And we talk about how big experience is. So it's going to be interesting to see how those guys kind of all meld together and, work with, John Flowers, Kevin Jones. But this team is kind of almost reminds me of Carmen's crew. We're starting to teeter from the young to the old. And but they'll be ready to play, and they've got a nice squad here. But there's definitely some question marks and some uncertainty around them.
Now, how big is this arena? I believe it's the Westbanco Arena. Is this like a 4,000 person venue? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I want to say like 3 to 5, somewhere in there. It's about half the size of the Civic Center.
So they're going to open up the whole bowl.
I'd assume so. I wouldn't take what I say as gospel, but I'm just from what I've seen of it, I think it's like about 3 to 5,000 person arena.
Okay. So we're hoping to fill this. What do you think the percentage, if it does become a West Virginia Marshall or Heard That game, we thinking it'll be 65, 35? What do you think the split's going to be?
I'd probably say 75, 25. That would be good for us because, like I said, it's way up there, sort of in the heart of their territory and away from us, whereas Charleston, we had a better showing in Charleston because we're a lot closer to Huntington.
Now, Matt, how far is this from Richmond?
It's about a 6-hour drive. So
it's makeable.
Like driving to New York, basically.
Yeah, something you would never want to do. How was Rucker last year for you, by the way?
Rucker was wild. Basically, our team, so the game before us got a rain delay, which is not something you usually hear in basketball.
Not in competitive basketball, no.
Correct. So they were using these buses as the locker rooms, but also to get teams. And so it delayed our bus. So our team did not practice at all, not a second. And so our bus got delayed, and they had to move the game indoors to Gauchos. So that's where we were supposed to practice. So not only could we not practice, but we had no bus. So we were told to Uber to the game, but we just took the subway instead. So our whole team just rode the subway to Rucker, which was weird, but it was a really cool basketball memory for me, basically, just like walking through Harlem with a team of pro basketball players after jumping off the train. It was wild, but it has its challenges, that's for sure.
And who was your head coach last year? So many people might have heard of him.
So most people know him probably by Skip to My Lou, but his name is Rafer Alston. So it was really unique experience to get to work with him and just, be in his city with him. So, and to stay in touch with him and try to help him kind of, connect with other coaches and make his way up the ranks. He actually almost was going to join us this year with Ram Nation, actually, as an assistant.
That would have been cool. Well, hey, there's always next year. Okay, so we got Best Virginia, pretty quality squad. Now, Charge, obviously, and I'm getting this right for a change, Du Bois Dream, right?
Pretty much there this time. Yeah, Du Bois Dream. Close enough for you. Yeah, we got to give you a little bit of grace. But yeah, these guys buy-in team this year, and they run a really nice program in some of the local kind of semi-pro basketball. They've entered teams in the past into TBT. Albert's played with Sideline Cancer last year, so these guys know what they're getting into, and just a real big opportunity for them and their foundation to get on the spotlight. They draw a Best Virginia team, which is scary, but we talked about how West Virginia is a little bit of a transition, so I don't anticipate this being a pushover game for them. So Albert and his team are excited to play, excited for the competition. So, but it's a uphill battle. Albert will admit that himself, and they'll come out ready.
So, Odd, I assume you've already started scouting Best Virginia. What does the Du Bois Dream have to do to compete with Best Virginia?
Get a new roster.
Oh my God!
Oh no! Yeah, that's gonna always shoot it straight out here.
There we go. Yeah, well, that's a good thing to move it along. Speaking of a new roster, let's talk a little bit about the undercard of the first half of these games. And it's a really interesting game, and probably actually my most anticipated first round matchup. The number 4 Marshall heard that Odd's team versus number 5 Zookers. So first of all, Odd, this is the best roster you guys have ever had. Let's just be honest. Like, am I right? Is this the best roster you guys have ever had?
Yeah, we feel like it has the potential to be. On paper, we'd say yes. So hopefully, it works out like that in the games and in practice. But yes, we're excited and we think this could be their best roster we have, and we really plan on that being the case.
Now, do you look forward to having being able to just sort of spam John Elmore and Ja'Cory Williams pick and roll? Is that something that just like basically is a cheat code in an event like TBT?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in our best when we have John and Ja'Cory together. I mean, of course, we lost to Team 23. The last year we had Ja'Cory by 1 point in a game we should have won, and they almost won the whole championship themselves. So we feel when we have John Ja'Cory, that puts us right there competing for it all right off the bat. And then we filled out the roster really nicely, we think.
I gotta say, and obviously you're going to lean heavily on Ja'Cory and John, but I mean we talk about guys like James Kelly was huge last year. Picking up Rob Gray and Tavon Kinsey is just big time depth for the team. Jared West, I mean, when you're starting to get down to your third or fourth guard, and they're still, great players, and I think that's going to definitely be the advantage for you guys. And love seeing guys like Stevie back. So you still got to bring back some of the legends of the herd that team, but this thing is, goes way deeper than John and Ja'Cory.
Right. I mean, we're very excited to have Rob come in. That's a guy that's played in the Euro League. He's a guy that's going to, hopefully get buckets for us. JP Tokoto, big versatile wing athlete. Derek Cook played very well for us last year. You mentioned James. We bring in Luke Fisher, who's actually won a TBT championship. And then now we start to add the Marshall guys like Tavion, just had a great summer league for the Jazz out in Vegas, and he's going to be coming in playing for us. Jared West played high level overseas. And then, of course, you all know the rest of the guys. We've been heard that for a while. And, these guys were starters and big-time players on a team that made the Final 8, and now they're maybe back into the rotation or, back into the roster. So that tells you how strong we feel this team's going to be.
Now, obviously, first of all, do you have a uniform this year?
No, I'm going to be wearing a suit and tie, taking the bar during the first game.
Okay.
So I hope we can get a win so I can make it up for round 2.
Now, refresh us. You played last year. How did your final game against West Virginia go?
We did not show up very well.
No, specifically, did you finish the game?
No, I didn't play. I didn't play in that game.
Weren't you? Did you get a bench technical or something?
No, my dad did, but they announced it.
Got it. Yeah, it's always confusing because I remember you were sitting on the bench and it said bench technical on Elmore. I'm like, what did he say? I guess it's on your father. That makes sense.
Yeah,
okay, that was a pretty funny moment.
gave it to me. They just gave it to me for the crowd reaction.
Like I said, the crowd reaction was fantastic. So.
Yeah,
but obviously that game was getting a little away. I had the pleasure of meeting your dad, great guy up here in Cleveland this year, and we were talking about that. That he's like, yeah, that definitely wasn't that was me. And but like father, like son, you guys have a lot of fun out there, pour it all out there. But it was great getting to meet him in Cleveland this year.
Yeah, he enjoyed it, and I will say this is not the roster that played that West Virginia team last year.
No,
not at all. It's a deeper roster.
Quick question about Ja'Cory. We were talking about this on the last show, and I'm highly disappointed they're going away from the 33-point contest and doing this posterized dunk contest. So I don't know if TBT started soliciting people to do that kind of contest, but it'd be really cool to see Ja'Cory throw down on some people. So I don't know who's doing the recruiting, but he is just monstrous. He would definitely posterize someone. Yeah,
but you also get into the these guys that are playing high level professionally, that's you don't want to take a chance on something like that. That's asking to get hurt or come down wrong. So these guys that have big contracts and are playing at a high level probably going to try to avoid doing that contest.
Do it live on ESPN versus this show. But I saw the posterized contest live last time. It was horrific. I'm just so bummed they brought this thing back. But we'll see where it goes. Maybe they got some different rules or ways to regulate it. But it was tough.
Now talking about seeding for a bit. This is a no gift matchup because Zoo Crew is making their appearance. Now their official record is 0-0 as per the site. But actually the Pitt Panther alumni have been in this 3 times, most recently in 2018. They've got some guys like Jamal Arce who have played this event before. So Charge getting into this, like this team actually has some TBT experience and could be a little dangerous, correct?
Yeah, they got quite a lot. They were the Untouchables before they were the Zoo Crew, going way back, and so they've got a lot of history in TBT. Gary McGee, Gilbert Brown have all played for a while. Vance Field. These are going back, probably that first season, 2016. When what was your old team name out? They got smoked in Columbus, but. West Virginia Wildcats. Yeah, this is going back to Wildcat days that these guys were all formed and playing, and so. But so they got a lot of experience, but they got some young guys off of some recent Pitt teams. So kind of similar to West Virginia. You don't know what you're going to get from these guys in the first year TBT, but when you start to put some of these veterans around them that been around the block, a lot of maturity with McGee and Brown. McGee still puts up good numbers too. When he's been in here, our Tis is going to be fantastic. Been part of some winning teams, so this is one. I think we all love what Herd that put together, but there's no way as the head coach of this team is going to let his guys look past Zoo Crew.
No, they're a big physical team. They're good. Like you mentioned, they might just be in the wrong spot age-wise, sort of like West Virginia, where either their core is, getting up there or their core is super young. Like they have a lot of guys that play college this year. But no, if we aren't ready to play, we can definitely lose first round. And it should be we're going to try to make it fast. They're probably going to try to slow it down and make it physical. So we'll see who's able to be successful.
Now, Matt, you're a TBT lifer of the multitude of teams you've run and been a part of. Having this kind of experience, and even if it's a little older, because the games are shorter, experience still means a little more than youth in TBT, correct?
Yeah, I'd say so. It just depends. You just are so much better when you've had years of professional basketball. But I mean, look, this is, to me, their roster seems a little bit beyond experience. Some of these guys are I know guys who are retired that played against them, back in the day, and so they have quite the range on this team. And then how do you get? I mean, this feels like a mentor program, But
That's awesome.
maybe they'll come together.
I mean, and I think that's honest assessment, and you kind of see that a little bit with Carmen's crew, seeing that with Best Virginia, that at some point you truly gotta, if you want to maintain the program, and now with NIL and obviously TBT focus on alumni teams, you got to find a way to pass the torch, and so I hope it works out for him. Obviously, I'm a Heard That fan, so sorry, Gilbert Brown was the charge guy, but I'm going to be pulling for those guys. But I hope the team's very successful this year. They play a great game and keep coming back. I think it's just good for TBT.
A bit of my knee-jerk reaction on this team is a lot of their most successful players are their really old guys, but then their young guys are when Pitt just hasn't been very good, So it's going to be an interesting combination for Heard That to figure out.
Yeah,
I want to see. I want to see DeJuan Blair take the tie off and play. That's what I want to see.
I think we played against him in 2017, and he was old then.
He was a FOE. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he was always one of the best players in TBT, as long as you didn't account for vertical leap, because the man could play, but I think his vertical leap was about that much. Like a great player, but just couldn't jump. Big body though, great player. It's interesting seeing these guys on the coaching staffs as opposed to playing. Okay, so we're halfway through. Now this is interesting. You have the number 3 Challenge LS Florida combination against number 6 Dogtown. Now, Charles, we'll get into the details. We'll get into the details in a minute, but of all the TBT stories, a top 5, maybe a top 1 story was the combination of Challenge ALS and Florida TNT. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of crazy to have 2 successful programs. I mean, we had Team 23 and Heartfire combined, which made some big ripples back last year and this year. Or was that 2 years ago? I'm losing my memory. But Challenge ALS and Florida coming together is just kind of unheard of, and bringing the best of both teams. Obviously, we'll talk about Dominique Jones, which is not on there. But when you bring in a guy like Deshaun Stevens and Marvell Harris, and line them up with these guys who went to the Final Four recently, it's just a solid team. Added guys like Fletcher McGee, but I mean, this is a power merger like we've never seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, you're on the left side of that bracket. How scary is this team?
They're good, but we're not even worried about them yet. We're gonna have 2 good games just to get there. So I feel like if we get there, we're gonna like our chances with who we had just beat to get there. So I'm not even worried about sideline yet, because Florida TNT, because they got sideline, they got VCU. I don't like the Georgetown team as much, but I mean, that's 3 teams that could all potentially win that side of the bracket. So we don't need to start worrying about any of them yet.
Yeah, don't be in a hurry to ask for trouble. Now, I also know, Matt, that it is one game at a time. And since you're the lower seed, I assume you're just sort of sticking a worry on the plate of food in front of you. But would you be trying to broker a move to get Dominique Jones off sideline back to Florida ALS?
Man, I feel like I've been texting all my NBA coaching friends trying to get them to sign Mike Dom from game 1. I'm going through the list of all right, I need this guy gone. All right, I need y'all to offer him some kind of workout on this day. So I'm already trying to make those moves. But yeah, it's ridiculous. These 2 teams on our side. I mean, sideline is like a EuroLeague all-star team, and these guys as well. Just kind of, taking some of the best of these teams. But they got to figure it out quick together. So, sometimes just having a bunch of talent doesn't always win.
That's a good question, Charge, because you've got some really good players. I mean, you got Clanton in the post, who's probably TBT's most gifted post scorer. Not their most gifted center. Nick Perkins is probably a better overall player, but Clanton's an absolute bucket down low. You got McGee from outside, and then all-around guard play of Warren, Boynton, Harris. I didn't even mention, obviously, Deshaun Stevens is a great player. So, is there just almost too much talent? No one wants to be a role player? Is that the concern here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's for the GMs, I guess, co-GMs this year. So you got Sharman Marshall, Darren Collison, you've got Terry, the coaches to figure out. But it's just human nature. These guys all want to be competitive, all want the ball. Everything we've heard is these guys kind of know their position, know their roles. But once you get out on the court, I guess that's where everything happens, and it's tough, and the teams have to figure that out, and it's gonna be the same thing with sideline. Is, I mean, how do you handle Dominique Jones, Marcus Keene, and the other character there? I already forgot him. Tyrese Rice. Tyrese Rice. So they're going to have some tough decisions, and especially when it comes crunch time, who's gonna be the guy, and people may get turned off by that, but I don't think you can have too much talent if you have the right guys who know their role. And it sounds like everything we've heard about Challenge ALS Florida, they're not worried about it, and they proved it through the years that they can have a really talented team and play together.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you look at, you just look at the ages of these teams for the most part. These guys are pros. They're not trying to. A lot of these guys aren't trying to just go make an impression. They know where they're at in their careers, and so they're not. I don't think they're just going to use TBT as some kind of springboard. These guys know who they are by this point. So I think an older team with a bunch of talent can figure it out. Same with the sideline backcourt.
That makes sense too. And obviously, because you've played for teams that have three-headed monsters. I remember one year it was Corey, it was John, and it was you. And that's three guys who need shots. So, how did you distribute the love when there was that three-headed monster?
Well, it was really a two-headed monster because I didn't get no shots playing with John and Corey. My role was to stand in the corner and just keep somebody close to me.
You did it well.
He did it well. So it's a fun thing. I mean, I remember when you checked out in those the slides. That was pretty much my favorite footwear of the entire tournament. Okay, so we got Dogtown now. Now, this is the first time TBT team, and frankly, I'm actually kind of shocked. This is Georgetown's maiden voyage. I don't think they've ever had a team before, like Pitt, where they're officially 0-0, but they've had teams before. And they got a huge shot in the arm. And this photo seems to indicate that by having Chris Wright, who was a big part of Autism Army's final runs last year. One thing, Charge, I do love about the squad is that they really represent the alumni well. Pretty much everyone on the roster we're showing, which again, these rosters changed, so God knows it's the roster as of today. They all have Georgetown ties, which is kind of a rarity for alumni teams. They're literally Hoyas through and through. Does that have an advantage, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. There's that camaraderie. And actually, I got to look this up because they had those little pods this one season where it was like St. John's, and I think the Hoyas were actually in that. It was Marquette and one other team, obviously. So I'm kind of curious.
I love the pods.
Yeah, so this may be their second go at it, but I mean, this is a depressive team. Chris Wright's been around TBT forever. Obviously, got to experience that run with autism last year, but I mean, they got some great ball players on here. Obviously, Chris Wright's getting on the older side. Didn't play a ton last year, but Greg Whittington, Henry Sims. I mean, they got some guys, Rodney Pryor, that are just, and no one's even talking about these guys because I think it's they got the 6th seed and they think it's a first year TBT team and they're playing ALS. And I know you've been pretty high on Georgetown from the beginning as we started seeing these teams develop, but this team is no slouch whatsoever.
I've been high on Georgetown?
I thought you've been. Or was there someone else in our fantasy drafts? Yeah, someone's really high on it. So
I mean, I think they're good. I think everybody in this region's good. So do I think they're good? Hell yeah. I think 1 through 7.5, these are some pretty quality teams. But I don't think that I'm any higher than they deserve. I think they're underseeded, but only because the whole damn bracket's a mess. I mean, the lowest seeded team probably should be Dogtown, and there are 4. And I mean, I see in this region, I see 2 1s, 2 2s, 4 3s. I mean, it's a joke. The whole region needs to be just dispersed and split up. It's like U.S. Steel. It's a monopoly of talent. So high on them in a sense, I think they're going to win much. Not really. I think they're going to be actually kind of light work for Challenge ALS Florida, simply because they're so good. But this is a quality team. I think it's just a victim of circumstance. So anyway, I will ask this, though. So, Matt, you've taken teams deep in this. Ram Nation, I've seen them play in Brooklyn before. They've gotten out of their region before. They defended their home court. Having Chris Wright on the team, who has actually just come off a championship a finals run where he almost won the championship. Is that helpful from a team ethos, even if they're light in TBT experience? Is having him on the team a turbocharge for experience?
I mean, he's familiar with how serious you have to be about this tournament and the quality of competition for guys who haven't been in it, and just how you have to hit the ground running immediately. We're creating franchises basically, and from scratch, and then, all right, let's get it together. So I think that does help sort of, so you're not coming out sleeping for sure. But I don't think they're going to lean on him as, hey, you're going to carry us to the promised land, Chris Wright. But he's an experienced dude who had a great history at Georgetown, and having a good leader on your program never hurts you.
Are you kind of relieved to be on the left side of the bracket, not the right side?
I don't really think it really makes a difference with the West Virginia region. Because like you said, there's probably 2 1s, 3 1s, 2 2s. You're going to get somebody tough. You're going to have to go through 2 tough teams. And unless you're West Virginia, you got to go through 3 tough teams. Somebody, they lucked out and got the Du Bois Dream, but everybody else is going to have to win 3 dogfights. So I don't really think it matters where you are. As long as you're not on that 1 seed, you're sort of fighting the same fight just to get through it.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I was correct. They played back in 28, the Jack Attack, so going deep to the vault. They lost to Hall Inn, the Seton Hall alumni team, so they had that little pod up there. I'm like, it rings a bell. But yeah, back in 2018, they had those pods, and so it'd be great to see Seton Hall get a team back in here someday. There's a lot of great programs that could put up some great tournament teams.
Yeah, they're named after the Bulldog, and I'm actually looking something up real fast about the Bulldog because I think, it's also maybe they have something to play for because Jack, their mascot, just passed away at the age of 4 years young. The Hoya passed
Where
away.
else are you going to get this kind of content than ZoomTheTBT? So
we're dog people.
I know that's why we're your favorite at. So
yeah.
Deep hits.
So rest in peace, Jack. Yeah, that's a sad story. Okay, so one more matchup here in sideline cancer. I mean, this is a thing. I mean, they were the plucky overachievers in the bubble. They made a surprise run as a 22 seed to the final, and at some point, they go from like a lovable underdog to like just absolute bullies. I mean, the backcourt. Who do you sit if you go 3? Who do you sit? You got Keene, Dominique Jones, Tyrese Rice, and Eugene German. Who do you sit in crunch time? Or do you just go like you basically act like you're Villanova and play 4 guards? Like who doesn't get to close that game? They all deserve it. I mean, the first thing you'd say is maybe take out Eugene German. All he did is score 24 points in China. Matt, are you having nightmares? Like, or do you need some Lipitor? Like, what's going on here? Are you on Prozac? What's going on here?
I mean, honestly, they're just so loaded that it's kind of like, who gives a shit? It's like it's fun. It's a cool challenge. Like they're on paper obviously supposed to win. And the other thing too is like, that roster ain't free. You know what I'm saying? Like we're an alumni team. Like I know I've kicked tires on trying to get Tyrese Rice before. He's a Richmond guy. Like our guys play with him the other day. And so, like give me their budget and let me go build a team. So it's kind of fun to be like, all right, like we got like, we're VCU guys. We're all tied in. These guys are like hired hitmen. So it's like, all right, let's go try to put team against, these superstars. But I'll say too, it does make it a little bit easier when like our guys play with Tyrese all the time.
Yeah, you have a little bit of tendencies. And Tyrese Rice actually didn't play professionally this last year, I don't think. So, maybe he the year off might add some rust. Now, you've played some pretty talented teams. Is it possible when there's that many guards, do you think eventually someone just starts wanting to hold the ball? What are you hoping for if you're playing that kind of backcourt?
Well, they sort of remind me of the Money team when we played them in the bubble. I mean, that was probably the most stacked TBT team, on paper you ever seen. And the problem was, you're 2 stacked. Like you mentioned, who are you going to take out? Who are you going to play? They were doing 5 in, 5 out. And I mean, they were winning most of the game, but once it got a little bit tight, they just completely fell apart. And so that's what you're going to, when you hire a bunch of mercenaries, sometimes it goes sideways when it gets tight. And so, if they can keep it tight and, and they're playing tough, and that's what I like the way they play, VCU brand of basketball. you know, they're not going to give them anything easy. And if they keep it tight, you know, sideline could fold down the stretch because, you know, all these guys have never played together and they're just a bunch of hired guns.
Yeah.
All right. Which roster am I mentioning here, Hayner? So I'm reading my notes. This is the quality you get tonight. We're talking about the roster. What do you want to know?
Okay, Charge. So we have these counted guards. What do you see from the front court of this team, though?
Oh, well, that's not what the note says there. That's not what the note says there.
It
Obviously,
says, can you rest in the roster up front, as in the front court?
like up front before you get to the slide, up front.
Okay.
All right.
Here,
No,
I'll ask you the question. Are they going to miss Eric Thompson?
Yeah. I think obviously Thompson's kind of their glue guy, their energy guy. But you know, we got guys like Mike Dahm, you know, who, you know, just a fantastic player. He is getting married, I think, August 5th. So, you know, unless he gets told by the wife or the wife to be can't play, you know, that could be interesting and intriguing developments. But I know, you know, a guy like him is going to be a staple, can do a little bit of everything. I mean, Chris Coffey, did you have Coffey one year?
No,
or Coakley?
We had Coakley.
Yeah,
Arkansas,
so Coffey's
Team Arkansas had him.
Yeah, so Coffey's got a good motor too. You know, big athletic guy. So I think they're going to be fine, and we're seeing this in all the tournament teams now. That teams are going smaller and smaller. And Fink put up some, you know, just from recently doing our fantasy league. Fink put up some nice numbers for sideline in the past as well. So I think they have enough there to, you know, be competitive. But we're finding TBT. You know, it's not a necessity by any stretch to have some of these big guys to go bang.
So one thing this roster loses to, and I guess I'll ask Scott this, is they have some senior guys they've had McCreek, they've had Rennie Abel, they've had Jamel Artis, and again Eric Thompson, who actually isn't looked to be replaced on this roster at the strength position, at the power position. Continuity, spirit de corps. Like, is there something missing when you don't have people who have been at the program for years? Like, is there something lost in translation when you go more of a hired gun stance?
Just the chemistry is a big thing. You know, we went out more last year, and it didn't work out for us, you know, as good as it had in years past. So it's a big thing. If you've got guys that, you know, are going to be in the foxhole with each other and have been there before, you know, if something goes wrong, you know, they rally the troops and, you know, you might be able to fight back. But, you know, you get a bunch of hired guns, something goes sideways, it could just all fall apart. So continuity and chemistry is definitely a big thing. And you want to have that with your teams.
Definitely. Now, speaking of continuity and chemistry, we can go ahead to our final team we're going to highlight. Matt, your Ram Nation. The VCU alums, they're back after a multi-year hiatus. And frankly, they're just extremely overqualified to be an 8 seed. We don't have the slides connected for records, but I don't think you're going to see many 7 seeds with 8. Did I say 8 seed again?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's on the brain. They're a 7 seed. It's a late night for both of us. Overqualified to be a 7 seed. I keep saying that because they have 8 wins. You're not going to see many people that far down the bracket with 8 TBT wins. Now, obviously, it's not a disrespect thing, Matt, because you know that this is just a tough bracket. But is it weird to see yourself that far down the food chain?
I mean, not really, because this is a completely different roster. I get it. I mean, would I take us over the Georgetown team? Yes, with what we have. But you know, if you're going down, you're just comparing players straight up. Where do they play? Where are they in their careers? So I get it. You know, it's a completely different team. And it's when I was just looking at West Virginia and I was like, hey, are we even in? I was like, man, these are some good teams. And trust me, I was texting TBT people about, man, maybe we should go to Cincinnati. Should we go to Dayton? But then I'd look at these other places and you're like, maybe you luck into like one easier game, but then you're just, you know, but no, I totally get it. And we got a lot of young guys. We don't, you know, we had some big names we thought were going to join us with NBA experience that ended up not. And so I get it.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what Jaquan Lewis is going to mean for your team.
I mean, that dude's super underrated. Tyrese Rice is a bucket. Dominique Jones is a bucket. Marcus Keene's a bucket. But, you know, Jaquan just got a big deal in the top French league. And he was absurd in Germany this year. His numbers are absolutely ludicrous. If you look at him, you could compare him with all of those guys, and you could say, actually, he might have had a better year. Obviously, Dom Jones plays in China, and people score 40 points a game there. But, if you really, at this point in their careers, if you wanted to have a discussion, how does he compare to those guys? He's up there with them or better. So I just think he's at VCU too. We've had a lot of really good point guards the last bunch of years with Eric Maynor and Breonte Weber, Bones Highland. And so Jaquan's super underrated. All he did was go to the NCAA tournaments all 4 years. So he's good. And I hope he eats, because I want people to know how good he is.
Now, one way to neutralize the quality of the guards that Sideline's going to have is just simply to make them play faster, like just make it. And VCU is known as a school that likes to play up tempo, that likes to play fast. Is that something we expect to see from Ram Nation in this tournament? I
mean, I hope so. To me, one of the scariest guards for me is Marcus Keene. I mean, short guy, and he's got the ball glued to his hand. But Dom Jones, I mean, he can obviously play, and so can Tyrese, but they're older dudes. And so I like the idea of our young guys having a chip and being like, let me go ahead and, let me heat up these legendary guys and show that hey, I'm Keyshawn Curry. I'm a pain in the ass to try to dribble the basketball on. So yeah, that's what VCU does.
Yeah, I mean, the youth is impressive. And then, I mean, you look at some of their numbers overseas. I mean, these are high-level overseas leagues these guys are playing in, and they're just tearing it up, double digits. I mean, 17-4, 15, 22, 16, 12, 18. And so it's just some phenomenal. I'm personally a little bit excited to see Javante Reddick play. He's a much better player than when he was playing in the G League. These guys go overseas and just do phenomenal. I think he did not play the last time with VCU. I think he was injured, but so I'm excited to see him back in action. And then obviously, to me, David Shriver is the story of this whole thing. Summer League legend, 3-bird. And so it's just a lot of fun on this team, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it should be a really, really good matchup. Do you hate to play teams that press, or are you somebody that welcomes the press?
I don't know. I think it just depends. I think with our roster, we like getting pressed because hopefully we trust my brother to break it, and that means somebody's going to be shooting an open 3. But I also think if they're going to beat Sideline, they need to get up in those guys and try to make it chaos, is how VCU does it in the past. And I think if they can speed them up and make it chaotic, I think if they make it chaotic, they have a chance to win.
Yeah, havoc. Gotta love that. Gotta love it. Okay, go ahead.
I want to throw out one thing too. Just something too is our coaching staff is extremely experienced. Our head coach has been D1, head coach for 3 programs. He's now coaching in Italy after the TBT. We've got a coach from New Mexico State. So I'm curious to see, when we have a group of guys that just play together all the time and know a system, and we've got actual head coaches, how much that can help in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to help. I mean, coaching matters a lot in this night. Okay, here are the picks. We're the last slide. We'll always make the qualification. Just because we pick against you or pick for you doesn't mean we don't love you. But let's just go ahead and charge. Let's have some fun with this. So in case you're looking at this and maybe you're listening to this show instead of watching it, in the first round, the 1 versus 8, we both pick Best Virginia over the Dubois Dream. The 4-5 matchup, we're picking Heard That over Zoo Crew. 3-6, we're both going Challenge ALS Florida over Dogtown. The 2-7, Charge is going with the upper seed, Silent Cancer. I will be taking the upset Ram Nation. And regional champ, Charge is going to have a very strong Challenge ALS Florida. And I'm going ahead and putting some chips on Ott's Heard That. I think it's their best roster they've ever had. And I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. But I do agree with Charge. That is the final. Charge, do you agree we have the final right?
Yeah, I mean, just incredible to think about the teams that are going to be playing on that right-hand side with Sideline, ALS, Ram Nation. So is it right? Who knows at this stage of the game? And, Heard That's just loaded. And I'll never pick Ott to go all the way. It just wouldn't be right to go a TBT season without at least giving him a little ammunition against me, but I mean, this thing is insane. I can't wait to watch West Virginia, see how it plays out. But that Challenge ALS team just so deep. They seem really cohesive. Chemistry seems right between the merger, and it's just extremely deep. So I think they got a little more depth that they can rely on, and I think that's what ultimately pushes them over the edge narrowly versus Hurrdat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So do you feel validated someone picking, or is that a concern? Because we've never really picked you before, so that's something you don't want to see.
No, you always want to be, picked. That validates what we felt like we did with the roster. We feel like this is the best roster we have, and we have some very high level guys. Rob Gray's, a big addition. Getting Ja'Cory back, I mean, that's the dude that's one of probably the 5 best players in the whole tournament. I mean, so we feel good. Hopefully we can prove you right, Hainer, in charge. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah,
I've been wrong many times, so this is your season.
and Matt, when you guys win that first round game, you can buy me a beer at the casino. We'll have a
Man, I'd buy you all beers if we get past that one.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually trying to take you out for a drink the last 2 TBTs, and both times we lost with Bleed Virginia, and when you lost with Skip. Let's get a drink. And you're like, and you like ran off the court.
Yeah, immediately after game, especially last year. We should have won that game last year. That was
you were friendly, but you were irate. You're like, what the hell? And plus, it was like it was still kind of like wet and rainy. Like it was kind of weird weather.
Raining on us. We had all of it.
It was a fairly ridiculous experience. Great though it was. Okay, so Charge, any closing thoughts before we let our esteemed guests go?
No. This is going to be a fun one. Our last regional preview. So now it's game on starting at 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So it's always a pleasure to have Ott and Matt on the show. So let the games begin.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, we're going to release this probably as soon as I get a cut, actually. So it'll be released after midnight. So it'll be probably released Wednesday the 19th, pretty early in the morning. And then that's it. Like, it's literally the TBT starts in 13 hours. It's 11:17 p.m. on the East Coast as we're taping. And this thing kicks off in 13 hours. It starts at noon, right?
Yeah. 2, I believe.
2. Okay, fine. So it starts in literally 15 hours, which is insane. We have Elmore, GM, and exiled shooting guard for Hurrdat. And Matt, how about to watch this? Shelton-Eide. I got that wrong completely, didn't I?
Shelton-Eide, that's okay.
I try. The GM and Grand Poobah of Ram Nation. Gentlemen, thanks for swinging by.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, fellas.
Okay.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.